The construction of the Extension Quay, or as it is known today, the Western or New Docks in Southampton, was at the time, during the early 1930s, one of the greatest engineering feats undertaken in the UK. Although only 76 miles from London, it was not until the arrival of the railway in 1840 that Southampton became a natural outlet for passengers and goods. But it was the rapid increase in the size of liners such as the Majestic, Berengaria, Aquitania, Olympic from the Cunard White Star Line, as well as the Empress of Britain from the Canadian Pacific, that was the catalyst for the expansion of Southampton, as it became clear that ever more quayside was needed if the port was to compete with Liverpool or London. Southampton lies on the confluence of the rivers Itchen and Test, and the film highlights a local phenomenon, the double tides, the period of about 2 hours during which the tidal rise and fall is negligible, making loading and unloading ships more manageable. In the days before steam, these tides were more of a hindrance than a help, forcing sailing ships to lose time waiting to catch the tide. The seaward approach from the east for larger vessels is through Spithead, between Bembridge Point, the eastern extremity of the Isle of Wight, and the shoals off the low-lying Hampshire coast. The eastern approach is via the Needles Channel, which leads into the Solent, used mainly by ships up to 20,000 tons. On the mainland side of this channel is a shoal called the Shingles, where the run of tides is strong, and vessels have grounded here. The need for extra docks meant that soon after the formation of the Southern Railway in 1922, the Docks and Marine Manager took up the question of reclaiming the mudflats in the bay of the River Test with the Borough Council. Before the Great War, the London and South Western Railway had acquired extensive land on the Woolston and Netley shores, but in the event, the extension of docks in the River Test became the favoured option, and at a meeting in October 1923, the Board of Southern Railway decided to seek powers to reclaim the mudflats. The results of detailed negotiations with the corporation was an agreement whereby 100 acres of the new land would be transferred to the corporation, and an undertaken was given to enlarge and improve Southampton West Railway Station. Construction of the new docks was split into stages. Stage 1 involved the reclamation and building of what were to become berths 101 to 104 northwest of the Royal Pier, while Stage 2 was for 4 further berths, and also the construction of a new graving dock. After tendering was completed, Sir Robert McAlpine and Sons were awarded the contract for the new berths, while J. Molam and Co., along with Edmund Nuttall, won the contract for the graving dock. Dredging first of all had to take place in order for the work on the new berths to proceed. A start was therefore made on a deep water channel in 1927. The soft silt of the river bed was dredged up and disposed of in the open sea. Then a layer of gravel was excavated and transported to the former train ferry jetty. From here it was transported by rail to a dumping ground. At the same time, the line of the new quay wall was also dredged to remove the silt and leave a firm foundation. The first stage of the new quay wall was between Town Quay and the Royal Pier, and from there to just beyond the old train ferry jetty. Gravel dredged from the deep water channel was first of all dumped from barges in order to build up a bank to low tide level. Then a bank swell machine was used to lift gravel to the top of the growing bank. Now sand and clay dredged from the deep channel could be pumped in the form of a slurry into the reclaimed area to raise the land level, at the same time allowing surplus water to escape so that permanently dry land appeared. In order to form the quay wall, 40-foot square concrete monoliths were used. The monoliths, concrete boxes about 40 feet square and made on the site, were sunk to provide the foundation for the long quay. Every monolith had a steel cutting edge as its base and was laid in sections, a standard monolith weighing about 5,000 tons. There are 146 under the quay, and they were sunk to 70 to 100 feet. Off on the edge of the monolith encountered boulders, which would be removed by dropping a steel-toothed grab down the well of the monolith. When a monolith began to cant, It was coaxed into an upright position by laying cast iron blocks on the higher side until the weight forced the monolith back into position. A familiar landmark on the Southampton skyline is the Solon flour mills, once operated by the Rank Hovis Company. The construction of the mill was very much due to the drive and business acumen of Joseph Rank, the founder of Rank Hovis McDougall. In the early 1930s, he proposed building a mill at Southampton, which was met with short shrift by his co-directors, who did not think it necessary. Unperturbed, he defiantly said to his colleagues, "Very well, I'll do it on my own," and losing no time, he secured a site on the Southern Railway New Docks estate and set about building the most modern flour mill in the country. The mills, completed in October 34, heralded the beginning of a new commercial life for Southampton docks. It was the first building constructed on the reclaimed land set aside by Southampton Railways for industrial development, and was to establish Southampton as a major centre of industry and commerce. The quick transit and cold storage facilities were utilised to develop the trade in South African and Californian fruit. Apart from citrus fruit such as oranges, huge quantities of deciduous fruit such as plums, peaches, apricots, mangoes, grapes and pineapples were unloaded at Southampton. Over 3.5 million packages of this type of fruit were received in 1934. In addition, an extensive rail network was laid out, connected to the terminus station via the harbour board lines and the old docks. As part of the building of the new quay wall, the old toll house for the Royal Pier had to be demolished, as it lay in the path of the new rail connection to the old docks. The construction of the graving dock was almost as difficult a task. The engineers surrounded the site with a gravel bank and made this watertight by a curtain of sheet steel driven along the centre line. They pumped out the site and began digging. Water threatened to burst up from below the dock, but tube wells were sunk into the sand and the danger was averted. 260,000 tons of water could be emptied in 4 hours by centrifugal pumps. The steel door weighed 4,600 tons and was floated round to Southampton from the Tees where it was made. The great dock, named after King George V, who opened it, was the cradle for the Queen Mary, in which she rested when her propellers, rudder and underwater sections were examined after her trip from the Clyde in March 1936. By 1935, Southampton was the premier passenger port of the British Empire, with as many as 17 of the world's largest liners sailing from the port in one day. However, Southampton's proudest moment came during World War II, when the town became the principal port for Operation Overlord and the liberation of Europe. Today, it is Europe's leading turnaround cruise port, welcoming around 2 million passengers annually, and is home of the largest cruise line operators in the world.